Hello, welcome to Cactus Green Room with me, Guy Masters. Today we wanted to welcome our very special guest, Sandra Laurie. She is a career coach, mindset guru, Irish, married to a Scottish guy I've just found out living in Spain, but I'll let her introduce herself. So Sandra, go for it.
Great. Thank you, Guy, for the super introduction. It's so good to be here, and I'm really looking forward to our chat. So, as Guy said, I'm Sandra Laurie, and I am speaking to you today from sunny Spain. And I am the founder of Sandra Laurie Coaching, and I support newly appointed female leaders to really thrive in the early days of their new roles.
But your background, Sandra, is contact centers, BPO, multi-site, European, just give everyone a little bit of a view on, your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose I grew up in contact centers, Guy, I think, as you know,
Lucky you,
specifically.
lucky
Yeah.
you.
In the BPO space, excuse me. But from an education perspective, I am a HR educated, but I never practiced in HR. I decided to go into the contact center world, specifically operations, because I loved the buzz of it. So I have done everything from advisor up to, head of site, managing director, exec level board. So when people say to me, it is hard work to sit and take calls, I genuinely get it. I've done it.
Yeah.
And then a few years back, I moved into the HR space, into very senior HR leadership positions. And then about 18 months ago, decided to follow a calling to train as a professional coach. Always something that I wanted to do, just to really support female leaders, specifically senior female leaders, to really excel in those early days of their career and really thrive, because those early days can be, I suppose, a space where loneliness can develop, self-doubt can kick in. So I work with my clients on a one-to-one basis with my specifically developed programs to conquer any challenges that may start to feel like mountains in the first 12 months of their career, so that they can really excel in that space that they were hired to grow into.
Interesting. And is this something that kind of developed or came to pass because of your experience? Let's say in your last role, you had people come into the business and you thought, actually, that person could really do with some kind of help and guidance.
Yeah, I definitely think that my mission with this is inspired by my own journey. In my career, I always prided myself on being that support mechanism, that mentor, that really wanted the best for my team. So I think, I'm definitely a people-focused person. And yeah, I think that sometimes early days in businesses for people in new roles, we don't always get it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's sometimes the company's focus is not always necessarily to provide that development that the employee needs. So I guess I'm there to support that employee if they feel that within them that they want to develop more and they need that soundboard to guide them on their journey.
Brilliant. Well, that leads really nicely into what we're going to chat about today. Because today we're going to talk about sort of pre-hiring, before you hire someone, and then once you're hired or once you've offered, how you onboard them, and then also, post-hire, how does that person embed themselves into the company, and how does the company embed that person into the company, from both obviously an employer and an employee perspective. So, there's the whole raft of things, but branding, attraction, choosing an agency or a partner to work with, how you design an interview process. There's so many things that go into sort of those three segments. But yeah, so I mean, from your kind of background and your experience, the sort of the pre-hire, so crucial into planning that, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I think that from an employer's perspective, that, creating that positive pre-hire experience, that's crucial to attract talent, right? We know that, right? That's obvious. But for me, it's really about process and connectivity. So how the different parts of your pre-hire journey connect and really speak to each other. And I think that the more seamless this is, the more you actually impress your candidates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's crucial.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crucial. It's a two-way thing. Recruitment
100%.
is a two-way thing.
100%. And I think that the employer's job here is to really demonstrate that the journey with them, it starts before the interview. That this is key. And I think
Yeah,
this is often a missing beat. So looking at like all the things that you've mentioned there around branding, attraction, agency choice, all important cogs of the wheel. But we also want employers to be focusing a lot on the things that really can trip us up. And by this, I mean clear job descriptions,
yeah,
relatable job postings. So, we want to hook candidates in by making it seem like that they can relate to the environment that you're trying to hire them for. Timely replies to candidates. And, summer, right, is a really prime example of where, this pre-hire experience, specifically when it comes to interview, it can really go wrong and be poor.
yeah,
And we see candidates and they're left waiting for weeks from feedback due to vacation within a company.
absolutely.
Well, this is a poor signal about your internal journey. It's saying that it's not seamless, because you know better than I do, Guy, but like a day to a candidate, it feels like an eternity. So you just can't afford to let people sit
Yeah,
waiting. So,
you're absolutely
it's
right. You're absolutely right.
Mhm.
And I think that just to add to that, it's, we spend our entire lives, being as the sort of go-between between client and candidate. And, the candidate is obviously, massively focused on that role with that client. And we're kind of the conduit to hoping that happen. They're
Yeah,
obviously chasing us saying, is there any news?
yeah,
And then we're saying, no, we're chasing the client. And
yeah.
it's a it's really hard. And you almost need to over communicate than
Yeah,
under.
for sure. Of course, you need to over communicate then at that point to, make the people feel secure and maybe undo any doubt that's happening at those times. So I think those small things really trip people up. So I think for me, the trick to impress is that seamless journey. You want your candidate to feel like you've got an ecosystem that's
Yeah,
working and evolving through their journey and interaction with you. And not overlooking the fact that you need to have a candidate friendly process. So,
yeah,
by candidate friendly, I mean, you know, if we see that people are ghosting us or not interacting with us or going cold after assessment, right, we're getting signals from this.
yeah.
What's going on here? So we need to use those signal and insights when we're actually making sure that our process is seamless and keeping that potential candidate engaged with us, because we want them to come on that journey with us.
Of course, I love that, candidate friendly. It's brilliant. I mean,
Mm,
there's so many processes that are put in place, especially in
mhm.
interview processes, or um, that are put in place that suit the hiring manager maybe or the client, and then there
Yeah,
isn't that thought about, okay, so we've got to get the candidate to site, and then we're going to get them to site in the good old days, get them to site for the first stage, and then there's going to be a second stage, then there's going to be a presentation, then maybe there's just too many parts. Just condense it, make it quick.
yeah, and we run a risk of overwhelming,
Yeah,
if we
exactly.
don't think about that friendly centric focus and that kind of human approach that we want.
Exactly right. So I suppose moving on from there, the onboarding. You've got your candidate, you've offered, they've accepted, everything's great. The onboarding, we've seen this, we see this so many times. It just
Mm,
falls down. And
mm,
that if the candidate has had this amazing process and amazing experience with the company, then it gets to paperwork and checks and all that kind of stuff, and it goes off to a different team in an organization, quite obviously. But then it's almost a bit of, it's like fire and forget. Okay, we've got the candidate, we've offered them a job, they've accepted, fantastic, we'll see them 4 weeks on Monday. But that's not quite where it ends. There's a
no.
ton of stuff that needs to happen, and this is really where it can really fall down. um, and so you've seen this time and time again, quite obviously.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what you're calling out, it happens, right? Because we're humans and processes take time to evolve and become seamless and
Yeah,
trial and error. So I get all that, but I think again, here we are with another opportunity to demonstrate how well you, the employer, has thought about your employee's journey. And here we need to demonstrate that onboarding starts when the offer is accepted.
Yeah.
So again, I keep saying this word seamless, but it's the simplicity that we want to go for here. So, onboarding, it's critical. It sets the tone for the new employee's experience with the organization, but it really goes beyond getting the paperwork completed.
Yeah.
It's about making the new employee feel welcome, informed, and engaged. And again, I think employees really want to see evidence of that. They want to see these living, moving, organisms, ecosystems that really help them integrate, because they want to know that you've tried and tested this. And,
Yeah.
and I guess we hear so many stories about employees rocking up on day one, no PC,
Yeah,
IT
that's right. Yeah.
equipment.
Someone else's laptop.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And I got all of this, early days pandemic, organizations really had to,
Yeah,
change from day to night. Totally understand this.
Yeah.
Calendars filled with meetings with no context, internal documentation not
Yeah.
completed. But, we have to remember that these early days, they're your chance to get your psychological contract bang on with your new team member. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Psychological
that's
contract. I like that.
yeah, your psychological agreement. It's all
Yeah.
about, this partnership of you psychologically committing to them so that they in turn psychologically commit to you. And I think we need to think more seriously about the signal that it sends when we overlook details. Now, that being said, we're humans.
Yeah.
We're growing, we're evolving, we're changing all of the time. Things go wrong from time to time. And I think if the onboarding journey is not pristine, I think you'll be forgiven, right?
Yeah.
But you'll
Yeah.
not. But I genuinely believe that you'll not be forgiven by not supporting your new hires integrate into their new team. Okay.
Agree.
So you need to plan this well, and I think that you need to have roadmaps that you can rinse and repeat time and time again, that when you're integrating a new employee, that you pull this out so that you have a plan that's tested, that you can use. Sandra knows who she's with today, where she's going, somebody's looking after her. She has somebody to turn to for basic questions about logistics. What do we do here for this?
You need a chaperone. You need a chaperone, don't you?
You do. Like, God, it's starting a new job is really nerve-wracking, right? We've all been there. It's hard work, and proper onboarding, I think, really helps alleviate that anxiety for candidates, by really providing, clear information about what to expect, where to go, who to contact, for assistance. And I think that, not doing this well is really a breeding ground for self-doubt for a candidate. And, I think you've heard me use this phrase before, but mind monkeys will show up.
Monkeys. That's right. Yeah, I have heard you say that before.
So the idea that we want people to think about here is that, a structured and supported onboarding can reduce the risk of failed transition by 50%. And there is loads of surveys out there, evidence from Harvard Business Review, etc., that backs this up. So it deserves time and attention. It deserves planning.
When we spoke yesterday, you gave me a percentage of people that go into permanent jobs but don't last beyond a certain amount of time. I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah. So there's a few different school of thoughts of it, but all of the data available is indicating that, depending on the level, between 50% and 57% are at risk of failure when the onboarding, when that transition, when the integration is not going to plan, or plans are thought through correctly. So think about that from a
that's
cost,
huge.
Money, resource, time. We just can't afford to get this wrong.
No, and it's this, in many instances, it's the simple things that fall down. The complex stuff is kind of done. You find the right person. It's been a long process, or whatever it may be. The onboarding part, the simple things that create or sow that seed of doubt, as you said earlier, are often the things that actually make someone think, maybe this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And then they get that phone call from another company or an email from another recruiter or something, and they're like, well, I'll just have a conversation. What can harm? And then they find that someone absolutely blows them out of the water, and they don't start or they leave.
Yeah, it's that sour taste in your mouth at the beginning where it just doesn't feel right, but then you're backing that up because of poor planning and execution, and it's the small things that will trip us up time and time again.
And interestingly, I mean, we've done another podcast about this kind of topic, and one of my real bugbears personally, and this isn't because it makes my job hard in any way, shape, or form, but one of my real bugbears, and this is slightly off topic, but one of my real bugbears is someone lowballing an offer. So candidate wants X, company has X. Candidate knows what the banding is, client knows what the candidate wants, and then it comes in at sort of, let's say, £5,000 less. For the candidate, like, well, you knew what I was wanting, I know what the banding is, vice versa, etc., etc. Why are you trying to kind of get me cheap? And is this the way our relationship is going to start? And I understand if you've got, if you've got 1,000 people and you manage to save £2,000 on each person, then great. But if this is the way our relationship's starting, then what can I expect when I'm there? I'm not saying you should over offer and, someone wants 50 and go, we'll just give you 60, make you feel happy. But, it's an important part.
It is. And I think from a candidate's perspective, what I see with clients that I work, and when we see that type of situation or similar situations when they integrate into the early days of the role and they're coming against those type of challenges or, negotiations very early on, there is a red thread then to how they feel across their early days in the business. And, you do not have a emotionally invested employee if that's the behavior from the start, the commitment, because they're not sensing it from you. You're not getting it back.
Exactly right. I've been told to say, please like, subscribe, and share. That's what we've got to do. See you next time.